Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Be Like Christ for our final day in the book of Esther, Esther 10. I've really enjoyed this study, and I hope you have too, reminding myself of all the details here, and it's just a great story. I will say that in another video I mentioned I hadn't seen a good Esther movie yet, and several of you recommended One Night with the King, which I'd never heard about. I'd watched a movie called The Book of Esther, I think, which came out in like 2013, and it was really bad. Not only was the acting bad, but the storyline, they changed it from the Bible, and it was worse. I was like, you should have just stuck with the Bible. But One Night with the King, I did enjoy that. My wife and I watched it, and it was much better than the first one that we watched. Not 100%, biblically in line with the text, but the acting was much better. The production quality was much better, and so definitely enjoyed it. I had never heard of that movie before. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite biblically based movie is. I'd still have to say I love the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston. We used to watch that growing up, or whenever we found it on TV, or we'd get it at the library and rent it when we were kids. And I do like that movie, even though, the acting is kind of goofy for like the modern day. That's probably followed closely by like Prince of Egypt and Joseph, Joseph King of Dreams or something, the Disney animated ones back when Disney was actually like making good stuff. And I think there were some other biblical based things that they put out. But those are good as well, and the music is good in them, although not exactly biblically true to the story in every detail, but they're pretty good. So let me know down in the comments if you've got any favorites. Maybe you've got some others that I haven't heard of that I need to watch. But the reason I feel at liberty to ramble about Christian movies at the beginning is because we only have 3 verses in our chapter today. I'm quite somewhat confused as to why the author didn't just tack this on to the end of chapter 9, or at least the guy who divided up the Bible chapters didn't just include it in chapter 9. I don't know if he just wanted an even 10 chapters or what, but we've only got 3 verses today. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. And also stay tuned until the end. We're going to talk a little bit about our next study and when that's going to start. You can probably guess which book we're going to next. As far as our first page on our PDF, we are going to go through this really quickly. It's all the same information. The story of Esther begins about 479 BC when she becomes the queen of Persia in chapter 2. Our main historical figures today, King Ahasuerus, who is the king of Persia. He's also known as Xerxes. And then Mordecai. He's a Jew who lived in Susa, who raised Esther after her parents died. And obviously now he's been elevated to the top of the kingdom, taking the evil Haman's place. One thing you can say about our map, at least, is that it has been consistent. We've been basically in Susa, the capital of the Persian Empire, for all 10 of these chapters, and we will remain there today. Okay, so let's go ahead and tackle these 3 verses. I've just entitled our section, The Acts of Ahasuerus and Mordecai. So the last chapter of Ezra is just a very short piece of text that's informing the reader where they can read more about the deeds of King Ahasuerus and Mordecai, who was now the second in command of the kingdom. All of the acts of Ahasuerus and Mordecai were written in a book called the Book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Media and Persia. I would love if some archaeologists would find that and let us all take a look. Mordecai spent the rest of his days in high honor at the king's side in the palace, and he was an advocate for the Jews, and all of the Jews really held him in high esteem, and they loved him. So that's pretty much how the book ends, and that's pretty much all we have in the text of chapter 10, just informing us of where we can read about the great acts of these 2 great men. For our application section, I wanted to kind of come up with an application that summarizes the whole book and what we've seen. So this is what I've got for today. The book of Esther gives us a chance to sit back and admire the way that God orders the world. The book of Esther is significant because it shows us that God is in the palaces and the government buildings and the homes of the most influential people in the world. And he is also in the villages, the markets, and the homes of every average person, everyone who's not a king or a prince or a queen or something like that. During the days of Esther, Ahasuerus or Xerxes was pretty much without debate, the most powerful, most significant, most influential man on earth. I mean, the Persian Empire was the world reigning empire. Yet, as powerful as Ahasuerus was, he wasn't really even in charge of his own household. God was, and God shows us that in the story of Esther. Now, in contrast to where we see Ahasuerus when we open up this book, he's at the top of the world. Esther was kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. Esther was a captive Jew on the opposite side of the social order from the king of Persia. Yet, God was no less involved in her life than in the king's. God brought together two extremely different people to accomplish what he wanted. And from this we can learn that social barriers, economic barriers, power barriers, ethnic barriers, none of them matter to God. He does what he wants. His providence works in all spaces. He uses who he wants, and he does things when he wants to do them. In application, I think it's accurate to say, and I believe the spectrum that we see in Esther backs this up, that God is just as involved and interested in your life as he is in the life of a president or a king or a queen or someone who occupies these very influential positions in the modern day. God's just as interested in your life. Now, somebody might argue, well, you can't draw that conclusion from Esther because God was only interested in her life because he was going to elevate her to be a queen, and he's not going to do that, for everybody. But those who would argue that, have you not read that God intends to take his faithful ones and elevate them to the thrones of heaven? You can read about that in 2 Timothy, in Revelation, in the book of Romans 8, verse 17. If God was involved and interested in the life of a lowly woman because he intended to put her on an earthly throne, how much more interested must he be in the lives of the individuals who will one day reign with him in heaven? For me, the great application, the great takeaway from Esther is the power and the providence of God working in the lives of every individual. He's touching all of our lives and working in all of our lives, no matter which end of the social spectrum, economic spectrum, power spectrum we find ourselves on. So that's our study for today, and that will conclude the book of Esther. Thank you again for studying with me, and our next study is going to be in the book of Job. And that one has about 40 chapters, and so that one's going to take us a little bit longer to get through, but I'm excited because that's a great book in and of itself, dealing with a subject matter that is significantly different, but no less important. We're going to start that study in about a week, I think, maybe, what day is it today? Maybe about a week and a half. And the reason for that is my wife and I are currently traveling back to Albania. We are currently living in Albania. We had to be out of Albania for 3 months to reset our visas, and so we've been traveling for the last 3 months. We are currently on our way back to Albania, so we should be there, Lord willing, in about 3 days, and that will give us some time to kind of get set up in a new apartment that we have, which will hopefully allow me to get the video back up. It's not going to be like this forever. The places we've been in the last week or so just have not been very good for filming. And so, the video will return for the book of Job, hopefully, and that will give us some time to kind of get settled in there and get everything set up, and then we can start Job and keep plowing our way through the Old Testament. So thank you for studying with me again today, and I'm sure this video is a little bit longer, but I just wanted to inform you as to what we're going to be up to next. And thank you all for your generosity, for your support, for watching these videos, for leaving encouraging comments. It really does mean a lot, and it keeps me going.